This is from the Wheelhouse with Annapolis School of Seamanship.
Hi, John Martino with Annapolis School of Seamanship. We're here with Todd Lochner from Lochner Law Firm, Admiralty lawyer, right here in town. And Todd, thanks for coming. You told me that your phone's been ringing. Well, it's April 7th, so we're 5 days into tariffs, and you said your phone's been ringing off the hook. Tell me.
It started at 5:38 a.m. following the speech. Brokers began to call and trying to figure out what in the world they're going to do with all of the foreign boats that they have under contract, supposedly to come to the United States, which could now be facing a 50%, 60% increase in the price, ultimately.
50 to 60% increase in the price?
Yes, so there was a 10% tariff that went into effect already on Friday that just passed, April the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
April the 9th, 2 days from where we sit currently, there will be the additional percentages on top of that 10% that are allocated to each individual state per the executive order that came out last week. And so the problem being that suddenly the costs of these vessels and getting them into the United States can increase the ultimate price of everything by 50% or more. Panic button, understandably
Sure.
so. And the panacea is that foreign flag of the vessel can solve the problem. So while the vessel is being shipped or before it's shipped on the deck of another ship, we can foreign flag the vessel. That is to say, flag it not in the United States. When it comes to the United States, it has a cruising permit. The rub is that it will have to depart at least once in the calendar year in order to renew its cruising permit and go to another foreign port. So thinking it through, all of these deals are not dead. There's just another way, another step, and
So
that's what needs to be solved.
So don't flag your boat, your new boat in the United States. Flag it in another country. Like what countries?
If it's coming from another country, it's built in another country, and it would otherwise be imported into the United States, that is now not really a possibility. It may well be that you can no longer afford the extra 50%, and each contract can be different. So is the problem the boat builder, the importer, or the ultimate purchaser's problem to pay these things? And each contract can be different already. 99% of the time, it's going to rest with the ultimate purchaser who needs to take the bull by the horns now and solve the problem sooner rather than later. And to do that, you need to speak to someone who does foreign flags of vessels. Fortunately, because I like capitalism, there are only 5 to 6 of us on the entire East Coast as far as law firms that do it. But all of us need to start helping all of those owners and the brokerage industry understand that this is the panacea to solve the problem as it stands right now.
Okay, so the rough and tough, what this means is you're going to flag it, you would flag it in a country we call flag of convenience, right?
Flag of convenience, a red ensign state. I actually would prefer for most of them the Republic of Marshall Islands. Several reasons. One, they're very easy to work with. They have the lowest fees of any of the red ensign states, which are typically former British colonies. And the beauty of that as well is that it is a protectorate of the United States. So if you're in the Mediterranean, you don't need to be flying the U.S. flag, which can sometimes look more like a bullseye, but the U.S. Navy is still there for you.
Okay, so you choose, that's the one you recommend.
More frequently than not, but it's often an insurance-driven question where they want to use the boat, but more frequently than not.
Then the owner of a vessel flagged in the Marshall Islands would need a cruising permit for the U.S.
Correct, in order to not import the vessel, in order to not pay these duties and tariffs. And also, the individual state excise taxes would not be due either. For example, Florida will hit you with an $18,000 bill. The state of Maryland will hit you with a $15,900 bill this year, $16,000 next year, because it goes up a little bit each year. And so the point is that you don't have to pay all of those things if you're not importing the vessel into the United States, which is a key element over the last week.
So this was something that big yachts did, a lot of big yachts, I don't want to say mega yachts because I don't even know what that means anymore. Over the course of my career, that's changed dramatically. But what does mega mean? But at any rate, now this could be applied. I mean, under the current circumstances, we could be talking about, 40, 50-foot sailboat too, right?
Absolutely. Before all of these tariffs, a vessel with a value of $300,000 should have at least considered whether it was an option. Now the number is much, much lower depending upon which particular country it's coming from.
Yeah. So besides the flagging and the cruising permit, is there anything else that needs to be considered in this process? You got to do it before it gets here, or can it be done once it arrives?
You need to do it before it arrives here. And then there's another thing that needs to be brought up, which is not necessarily related to the tariffs, but also independently just went into effect, which is that the Lacey Act, which is a protectionist act for endangered species, etc., requires that every piece of wood has to have an origination certificate. So if it's on a vessel and it's a veneer made out of a composite and then a wood on top, like a table, it has to have a separate line saying where that origination came from, and it cannot be from certain countries because there's a political element as well. Miramar, for example, and any country that is on an OFAC list you need to be careful about also for sanctions of various varieties. So there's a political element as well. But the Lacey Act is going to require that every piece of wood on any boat built after January 1 of 2008, which is going to be imported into the United States, the origination of that wood needs to be, you have to have a certificate accompanying that.
So even
that started January 1.
That started January 1 of 2025.
2025.
And it goes back, it's retroactive back to any boat that from January 1, 2008.
Built after January 1, 2008, which has not already been imported into the United States.
Okay.
So yet another reason that as a practical matter, there are many boats that are no longer going to be able to be imported into the United States. Those boats also are going to need a flag.
Yes, so they would have to be foreign flagged.
Correct.
Well, I can understand why your phone's ringing off the hook.
Indeed. And I like capitalism. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it is something that needs to be dealt with and needs to be dealt with very quickly. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it a little bit outside of the normal course.
Okay, so if somebody, if somebody is interested in flagging, how do they reach you?
Website, boatinglaw.com, telephone, all of you can get it from the website. And we're actually considering, given the volume of calls coming in, setting up sort of a triage and a duty phone so that we can rotate between attorneys so that we can actually get something done in a particular day instead of taking 7 intake or 8 intake calls.
Okay.
So we're trying to work out a system because it's coming fast and furious right now.
Okay, that's good to know. So if you want to learn more about foreign flagging or have any questions about boating law topics, you can reach Todd or his team at boatinglaw.com. Or if you have questions, just reach out to Annapolis School of Seamanship and we'll get you to the right person.